conservative side wants uniforms for next year. That plan is just undesirable and not able to work. For school to have uniforms for next year, the school board will have to start talking about it right now, in the summer. You need to know what uniforms you're going to have, where you're going to order them, and what you're going to do. That is just irrelevant to next year. Veronica was correct about what I said about how behavior could not change. It will change, but not in Upper Dublin. Not in our district. You'll still have those kids that go to the office every week. Our district is behaviorally pretty good. You still always have those kids that will go to the office. Uniforms will not change those kids. Why should it be up to the school on how much families pay for clothing? Some families can barely afford food on their tables. Why should they have to pay $250 for uniforms? And they might be on financial aid, but what about the families that aren't on financial aid? They still might have a struggle, but they might not have enough that they aren't on financial aid, but I'm sure they don't pay $100 on the weekend for clothes. We took a survey of two second period classes, and here are the results. According to Mrs. Miller and Mrs. DeFranco's second period classes, only 8 out of 19 kids thought that uniforms would decrease bullying in our school. Next, we asked if their clothes defined who they are, and only 6 said no. 13 people out of 19 think that clothes define them, and I'm sure they do define them. Next, finally, we asked them the big question, if they wanted uniforms in Upper Dublin High School. And out of 26 kids, 15 said no. That should explain why there just should not be uniforms if the student body does not want them. Some people might want them, but our district simply does not need them. Again, bullying should not be the reason we get uniforms, because we have taken bullying as a big issue and we have dealt with it very well. Thank you for listening, and I hope you all vote negative.
Good morning again, classmates, judges, and peers. While our opponents did bring up some good points, Veronica and I are still staunchly on the side of the affirmative. One of the points I'll admit that interested me most was Brett bringing up that wearing uniforms was sort of like communism, whereas communism is defined as a single-party state where government owns all property. As far as I'm concerned, I'm pretty sure that's not communism, and maybe if we didn't have uniforms, we'd be able to focus enough on our schoolwork to know what communism is. Gadi also brought up that what you wear often defines who you are. But that's one of the points, isn't it? If what you wear defines who you are, then what about the kids who can't afford the clothes that they want? The negative side does seem concerned, as we all should be, with people who cannot afford uniforms, which we addressed would be given financial aid. But if they can't afford uniforms, how can they afford the clothes they want? If we enforce the idea that clothing defines who you are, we're robbing many students of being who they are because they can't afford it. It was also brought up that bullying already occurs, and that by cutting down on clothing bullying, we would be opening the door for more bullying to happen. Except, as human beings, shouldn't we be empathetic, or at least sympathetic to each other? Shouldn't we understand that people who are bullied for one of the things many of them vastly can't control, which is clothing that they can afford, might be a source of bullying and self-consciousness for them? It was addressed that we already have plenty of anti-bullying programs. So what's adding one more? What's adding one more that cuts down on spending and cuts down on a reason kids who are underprivileged can be equals with their peers? $249 does sound expensive at face value for uniforms, but we already addressed that. It's significantly, almost half as cheap to go to a school with a uniform than it is to go to one without one. And freedom of expression should not overwhelm concerns of education. That should not be the main focus of this debate. The main focus should be whether or not uniforms will improve the educational value at our school. Because isn't that what school is for? School is for education. It's for learning. It's not someplace you go where you're afraid you'll be made fun of. Veronica and I don't propose school uniforms because we can, or because we personally would like to have them in Upper Dublin, though those things are true. We do not want to do this because we are permitted, and we do not want to do this because we have to. We want to do this because we truly believe it will benefit us. We want to do this because we are compelled to. Compelled by bullying, by insecurity, by the little 10-year-old I know who's upset because her father's just lost his job and she was made fun of because she couldn't afford new clothes anymore. We propose uniforms because we believe it will go a long way towards improving the environment in the Upper Dublin School District. And we truly believe that you will see that as we do. Thank you, and vote for us.
For a second time, fellow classmates Ms. Thompson, Mr. Reddington, and judges, I would like to spend the next minute or two to refute on what the affirmative had to say. We're all entitled, and if school takes away our way of expressing ourselves, what next? Why do you all have to be the same? Like Gadi said about his friend with the Germantown Academy, he said everyone looked like his twin. And Tatum, what I said about communism at first was a joke, but if you're wondering what I meant, communism means that everyone pretty much gets the same salary, and everyone is equal. Well, if we're all the same, wearing the same clothing, then we're all the same people. Anyway, what they're saying about the $250 and how the average American family spends $800 on clothing, not every family spends $800 on clothing. And what you spend on the clothing is what you decide to spend on it. Now, what I said about the polo shirt before is only $10. If you would like, you can only spend $100 on clothing, and you're set. You can have shirts and shorts for the week. Upper Dublin also, like our philosophy states, Upper Dublin does not have any of these problems that they said, reflecting on academics, bullying, and all the others. Why do we even need to be united anyway if we're just here to learn? Tatum admitted in the beginning of her constructive that when she had to wear uniforms at her old school, she didn't like it. She's just helping us out. I agree what they said before about the bullying and how it helps it. But here in Upper Dublin, we already have programs that help us stop bullying, like the No Place for Hate Center. This isn't a perfect world, and it will never be. The Cardinals fly together, but what the amazing thing is about Upper Dublin is that everyone is different in their own unique way. If we all dressed the same, we would not be more united. We would just be all the same and boring. In conclusion, school uniforms do not help with money, goes against our freedom of expression, does not help academics, and does not stop bullying. The plan is undesirable, and change is unnecessary. Thank every one of you for listening and giving me a chance to speak. Please vote negative.
Once again, good morning, everyone. As Tatum and I previously made clear, it should be made resolved that the Upper Dublin School District should mandate school uniforms in grades K through 12 for the 2013 school year. And although the negative side tempted to sway you otherwise, I am positive I can persuade you to disagree with them. Negative has shown their belief that uniforms are too costly, but according to statisticbrain.com, researchers have shown that teenagers spend an estimated $117.6 billion on just clothing every year. How much is it? .org shows that school uniforms cost about $200 to $300 per student for each school year. Brett continues to mention how some cannot afford this cost, but our plan explains the financial need. If we were to mandate school uniforms, we could be saving billions of dollars on clothing for a school every year. Also, Negative argues that children should be able to express themselves, but the National School Safety Center shares with us that there are approximately 2.1 million bullies and 2.7 million victims. 282,000 of those students are physically attacked each month in school because of their, quote, different personalities or looks. I personally believe that a child's safety is a first priority before their individuality. Negative brings up their belief of communism, but if a student's parents or a student were to believe wearing a uniform was a form of communism, I argue that the requirement of a gym uniform is also communism, but otherwise it is their freedom to switch schools. And about Brett's remark regarding Tatum, she also said that she, quote, grew up to miss school uniforms. Gadi complains that students would have to wash uniforms weekly, but do you not wash your clothing weekly already? Also, Gadi brought up that being overweight and being in different groups will cause bullying, but the same happens without school uniforms anyway. In conclusion, the mandating of school uniforms is an uncostly way of creating equality in schools and stopping bullying. Therefore, Tatum and I stand by the resolution that the Upper Dublin School District should mandate school uniforms in grades K through 12 for the 2013 school year. Through this rebuttal, I have reviewed to you the flaws of negative arguments, and I continue to support Tatum and I's plan. Vote affirmative. Thank you.